My name is Joseph Blanton. I'm 48 years old, and I died for 13 minutes. What Jesus showed me changed everything I know. And the thing he kept bringing me back to, the thing he wanted me to carry home more than anything else, was this. I was never alone. Not once, not ever, not in any of it. I need you to understand something before I get into what happened on that table. I am not a dramatic man. I work in HVAC. I've been doing it for 20 years. I come home, I eat dinner, I watch the news, I go to bed. I raise two kids with my wife, Donna. We've been married 17 years. I am ordinary. I am completely, thoroughly ordinary. And I think that's exactly why he let it happen to me. Because ordinary people need to hear it from ordinary people. The night everything stopped, it was a Tuesday in November. I remember it was cold, which surprised me because it had been mild all month. I had just finished a long job, commercial unit on the roof of a strip mall, and I came home tired and a little sore. Donna made soup. We watched something on television. I went to bed around 10. Around 2 in the morning, I woke up and there was this pressure in my chest. Not pain exactly, more like something sitting on me, heavy and tight. I thought it was indigestion. I actually thought about getting up to find some antacids. But my left arm started to feel wrong, and Donna, God bless her, she's always watching me closer than I watch myself. She woke up right then, and she looked at me, and she said, "Joseph, something is wrong." And I didn't argue. The paramedics got there in 6 minutes. I know because Donna counted. I was conscious when they loaded me into the ambulance, but by the time we reached the hospital, I wasn't anymore. My heart had gone into full arrest, and for 13 minutes, by the medical record, I was gone. I want to be careful here about how I describe what happened next, because I've heard people dress this kind of thing up. They make it sound like a movie. They use words that are too big, too shiny. I don't want to do that. I want to tell you what I actually experienced as plainly as I can, the same way I'd tell you how to replace a compressor coil. Step by step, no flourish, just what's true. The silence. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Complete, total silence. Not the absence of noise the way a quiet room is quiet. This was different. It was like silence was the substance of the place I was in. Feel like it was made of silence. And it wasn't frightening. I want to be clear about that. It was the most restful thing I have ever felt, and I understood immediately, not because anyone told me, just because I knew it the way you know your own name, that I had died. I wasn't confused about it. I wasn't panicking. I just knew. And what surprised me most was that I was still me, still Joseph, still the same man who had eaten soup and gone to bed and worried about a sore back. I was completely, entirely myself. Then there was light. And I know. Everybody says that, and I almost want to skip over it because it sounds so expected. But I can't skip it because it's the truth, and the truth of it is bigger than the words available to me. It wasn't light the way a lamp is light or even the way sunlight is light. It was light the way love is light. It had weight to it. It had intention. It moved toward me the way a father moves toward a child he hasn't seen in a long time. He was there, and then he was there. I'm not going to tell you I saw every detail of his face, because I don't think the part of me that was present in that place was equipped to take in every detail. It would have been like trying to hold the ocean in a coffee cup. But I knew him. I knew him the way you know someone you have always known, someone whose presence you've been carrying inside you your whole life without fully realizing it. He looked at me, and that look, I have tried for 2 years to find the right word for that look, and I haven't found it yet. It wasn't pity. It wasn't just kindness. Or it was something that took in everything I had ever been and everything I had ever failed to be, and it loved all of it without flinching. Not the way we love people in spite of what they've done. The way you love something that is yours, completely, foundationally, permanently yours. The first thing he said to me, and when I tell you what he said, I want you to pay attention, because this is the heart of everything he showed me. The first thing he said was this: "Joseph, you were never alone. Not one day, not 1 hour, Not one moment that felt like it would break you. I was there, and something cracked open in me when he said it, because I realized immediately what he was addressing. He wasn't talking about some general abstract sense of presence. He was talking about specific things, specific moments. What he was talking about the years I carried alone. Let me tell you something about my life that I don't talk about much. When I was 31 years old, Donna and I lost a baby, a boy. We were going to name him Thomas. He was stillborn at 36 weeks, and there is a kind of grief that comes from that which doesn't have a proper shape. It doesn't fit the grief categories people know how to respond to. You don't get a funeral with a lot of people. You don't get casseroles and condolence cards for very long. You just get this absence that sits in the corner of every room you ever walk into for the rest of your life. I never talked about Thomas. Not really. I told myself I was being strong for Donna, but the truth is I just didn't know how to hold it. So I put it somewhere deep, and I went to work, and I kept moving. Ha, that's what men like me do. We keep moving. Standing there in that place with Jesus looking at me, I understood that he had been with me in every one of those silent moments. Not watching from a distance, present, right there. In the car rides where I cried alone where nobody could see me. In the nights when I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering what Thomas would have looked like at 5, at 10, at 20. He was there, every single time. He showed me moments from my own life the way you might flip through a photo album. But these weren't the big moments. They weren't graduations and weddings and anniversaries. They were the small ones, the invisible ones. The Tuesday afternoon when I sat in my truck in a parking lot for 20 minutes because I couldn't make myself go inside. Woshti, the morning I stood in the shower too long because I didn't know how to start the day. The times I drove home from jobs feeling like a man who was slowly disappearing from the inside. And in every single one of those moments, he was there. I could see it now. I could see a presence with me in those scenes that I had not been able to see then. Not imposing, not demanding, just there, close, the way a good father stands near a child learning to walk, not holding them up, but right there if they fall. What he said about the loneliness, I asked him. And yes, I spoke to him, though I couldn't tell you whether it was with my mouth or my mind or something else entirely. I asked him why it felt so lonely then. If he was always there, why did it feel like I was by myself so much of the time? He was quiet for a moment. And then he said, because loneliness isn't the absence of presence. Loneliness is what happens when a man doesn't know he's being held. I never left you, Joseph, but you didn't know I was there. And that gap, that not knowing, that is what I came to close. I want to stop here for a second because that has stayed with me every single day since I came back. The loneliness wasn't evidence that he was absent. The loneliness was evidence that I didn't know. That distinction changed something fundamental in the way I understand my own life. There's a verse, Psalm 139, that says, "Where can I flee from your presence?" I grew up hearing that verse in church, and I always thought it was more of a warning than a comfort. Like you can't hide from God. But standing there with him, I understood it completely differently. It wasn't a warning. It was a love letter. It was him saying, there is no corner of your life dark enough that I am not in it. There is no low enough bottom that I have not already descended to meet you there. The moments he named, he took me through more than just my own grief. He showed me moments of failure. And I want to be honest about this because I think it's important. He didn't show me my failures in a spirit of condemnation. He showed them to me the way a surgeon shows you an x-ray. Not to shame you, but so you can see clearly what needs attention. He showed me a time when my son, Marcus, was about 15 years old and going through something hard. I didn't know what it was at the time. I found out later it was a rough stretch with some boys at school, and I was so caught up in a big project at work that I kept brushing him off. Not now, Marcus. Later, Marcus. Ask your mother. 3 weeks of that, and Marcus had stopped trying to come to me by the time the job was done. And as he showed me that, I felt the weight of it, but he didn't leave me in the weight. He said, I was with Marcus too. In every moment you weren't available, I was covering what you couldn't. I'm not showing you this to break you. I'm showing you this so you understand. Your absence created a gap, and I filled it. That is what I do. I fill the gaps. I always have. And then he showed me something I wasn't expecting. He showed me moments where I had been present for Marcus and didn't know it had mattered. A Saturday morning when Marcus was 9 and we changed the oil in the truck together. He was too young to really help, but he handed me tools and I explained what each part did. I had completely forgotten that morning, but he showed it to me like it was gold. And he told me Marcus had never forgotten it, that morning was one of the foundations Marcus built his sense of himself on. You think you failed more than you succeeded, he said, but you do not see clearly. I see clearly. And what I see is a man who showed up more than he knew. The return at some point in all of this, I became aware that a choice was being presented to me. I don't know how to explain it more precisely than that. I wasn't asked a direct question. There was no voice that said, "Do you want to stay or go back?" It was more like the possibility of staying was made real to me, and so was the possibility of returning, and I was being allowed to feel both. Staying was, I don't have the language. What I can tell you is that it felt like finally arriving somewhere you've been trying to find your whole life. There was no suffering there, no heaviness, no ache. There was only the fullness of being completely known and completely loved, and the understanding that it would never, ever end. But I thought of Donna, I thought of Marcus and my daughter Renee, and I thought of Thomas. And the strange thing is, in that place, the grief of Thomas wasn't grief anymore. It was just love and the understanding that I would see him again and that he was known and held and perfectly whole. That took something out of me that I had been carrying for 17 years. I told him I thought I should go back, and he didn't argue. He didn't seem surprised. And the last thing he said to me, and these are the words I have repeated to myself almost every morning since, the last thing he said was, "Go back and tell them. Tell them they are not alone. Tell them I am closer than they think. Tell them the loneliness is a lie." What I brought back, I came back to the sound of machines and people and voices calling my name. And Donna somewhere nearby saying my name over and over like a prayer. 13 minutes. That's what the chart said. 13 minutes from cardiac arrest to return of spontaneous circulation. I spent 4 days in the hospital. I did not immediately tell anyone what I had experienced. I needed to hold it first. I needed to make sure it was real in the way it felt real, that it wasn't going to dissolve under examination the way a dream dissolves by noon. But it didn't dissolve. It hasn't dissolved in 2 years. If anything, it has grown more clear, not less. I told Donna first, sitting in our kitchen about a week after I came home. I cried through most of it. She held my hand and didn't say much. When I was done, she said, "I knew something happened to you over there. You came back different. And I am different. I know that. Even Renee has noticed it. Even Marcus, who is now 23 and not a man prone to deep conversations, called me a few months after I got home and said, 'Dad, something is different about you. You seem lighter.' And I said, 'I am lighter, son. 17 years lighter.' Because I put Thomas down. I don't mean I stopped loving him. I mean I stopped carrying the grief like it was mine to carry alone. Because it never was mine to carry alone. He was never mine to carry alone. He was always held. He was always known. He was in the hands of the same one who met me in that place, and those hands do not drop what they hold. What I want you to know, I'm telling you all of this because he told me to. That's not some dramatic claim. I mean it practically. He said, go back and tell them. And I have been working up the courage to do it in a room this size, in front of people this real for a long time. But here I am. So let me say it plainly, the same way I'd say anything plainly, because I'm a plain man, and plain is what I have to offer. You are not alone. I don't mean that as a comfort phrase. I don't mean it the way it appears on a bumper sticker or the end of a greeting card. I mean it as a fact verified by someone who stood in the presence of the one who made you and was told directly that this is true. When whatever you are carrying right now, the grief you haven't told anyone about, the failure you replay at 2 in the morning, the version of yourself you're afraid is the real one, he is in it with you. He has been in it with you from the beginning. The loneliness is a lie. He sees the Saturday mornings with the truck. He sees the parking lots where you sat too long. He sees the shower where you stood until the water went cold. He sees the Tuesday nights when you ate soup and went to bed feeling like you were slowly becoming invisible. He sees all of it. He has always seen all of it. and his seeing of it is not surveillance. It is love. The two things look different in this world, but where I was, and they are the same. I am 48 years old, and I have been in enough crawl spaces, in attic units, and rooftop installations to know that the most important systems are usually the invisible ones, the ones running behind the walls, the ones doing their work whether you see them or not. I spent 13 minutes somewhere most people haven't been, and what I came back knowing, in my bones, in my chest, in whatever part of me carries the things that don't wash off, is that there is a love running behind everything, behind every wall, underneath every floor, and it has your name on it. His name is Jesus. He told me to tell you he's been there the whole time. That's all I've got. Thank you for letting me say it.